I was alone, pregnant, and heartbroken when he showed up. My name is Emily, and this is my story. Mark, the man I loved, vanished without a trace, leaving me with a baby on the way. Desperate, I ended up in a small town, and that's when Ethan, a kind and wealthy stranger, opened the doors of his mansion to me. He had everything: money, security, a look that seemed to understand my pain. But something about him intrigued me. He avoided my touch, as if hiding a secret. When I tried to thank him with a kiss, I felt something cold and heard a metallic sound under his skin. My heart raced, torn between fear and a love I couldn't explain. Who was Ethan, really? Why did Mark leave me? Stay with me until the end, because what I discovered changed everything I knew about love, betrayal, and even my own baby. Have you ever trusted someone who seemed too good to be true? What would you do if you uncovered a secret like this? Drop a comment below and tell me where you're watching from. If you're enjoying this, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel to catch more thrilling stories like this one. Ready to dive in? I didn't know where I was going, only that I had to keep moving. My name is Emily, and at 32, with a baby growing inside me, I was alone. Mark, the man who promised to love me forever, vanished 3 months ago. No letter, no call, no explanation. I grabbed what little money I had, threw some clothes in a backpack, and hopped on a random bus, ending up in Willow Creek, a small town in Pennsylvania, where the houses looked like they belonged on a postcard. My plan? I didn't have one. I just needed a place to breathe, to figure out how to raise my child without a father. The bus station was tiny, with an uncomfortable wooden bench and the smell of stale coffee. I was sitting there, counting my last $20 when he appeared. Ethan, tall, with neat brown hair and eyes that seemed to see right through me. He wore an expensive coat but didn't flaunt it. "You look lost," he said, his voice so calm, it almost made me cry. I told him my story, not everything, but enough. Pregnant, alone, nowhere to stay. He didn't hesitate. "I have a big house. You can stay there until you get settled." Who does that? Who offers a stranger a roof? But I was desperate, so I said yes. Ethan's mansion sat on a hill, its windows reflecting the sunset, surrounded by a garden straight out of a magazine. It was a different world from my simple life, from the grueling shifts as a waitress in Pittsburgh. He showed me to a guest room with a bed that seemed to swallow my exhaustion. "Rest," he said with a kind smile. But there was something about him, a distance, like he was holding something back. I didn't bring it up. Not that night. The next few days were strange but comfortable. Ethan was attentive, bringing me chamomile tea, asking about my baby, but he never talked about himself. He'd leave for hours, saying he was handling business, and return with that same distant look. Sometimes I caught him watching me, like he was trying to figure something out. My heart, which I thought was shattered because of Mark, started feeling something new. Gratitude? Maybe more. It was dangerous, I knew, but I couldn't help it. One night, we were in the living room, a fire crackling in the fireplace. I thanked him for everything, for the 1,000th time, and he laughed, a soft sound that made me want to get closer. Impulsively, I grabbed his hand. That's when I felt it. His skin was warm but hard, like something wasn't right. He pulled his hand back quickly, almost in panic. "Sorry, Emily, I have to go. He rushed out, leaving me with my heart pounding. What was he hiding? Why did a man so perfect seem so wrong? Have you ever felt like someone was hiding something big from you? How would you handle it? Drop a comment below. I want to know what you think. And if you're liking this story, hit like and subscribe to the channel to catch what's next. Because trust me, this is just the beginning. What's Ethan not telling me? And what did Mark know that made him disappear? Stay with me, because something much bigger is coming. The days at Ethan's mansion started to form a routine I never could have imagined. I'd wake up to sunlight streaming through huge windows, the smell of fresh coffee he'd leave in the kitchen, and a calm that felt like a gift. But that moment in the living room, when I felt something strange in his hand, wouldn't leave my mind. It was like a piece of the puzzle was missing, and I couldn't ignore it. Ethan stayed kind, but now I noticed more. He never ate with me, never got too close, and his movements seemed too perfect, like they were calculated. One morning, while he was out for his business, I decided to explore the house. It wasn't just curiosity, it was a need. I had to understand who this man was who took me in. The mansion was huge, with corridors full of locked doors and expensive paintings, but no personal photos. No family, no friends, nothing that said who Ethan was before me. Upstairs, I found a door slightly ajar, different from the others. My heart raced, but I went in. It was an office, with a mahogany desk and shelves packed with books on technology, artificial intelligence, stuff I barely understood. In the corner, a metal box caught my eye. It was unlocked, and inside were papers, diagrams, and a strange device, like a tablet, but with symbols that looked like code. One paper had the logo of a company, Neurotech. The name sounded familiar, but I couldn't place it. Then I saw something that turned my stomach. A photo of Mark, my Mark, in a document titled Project Cynthia. Why was his face there? What did Ethan have to do with this? I heard footsteps on the stairs and quickly put everything back, my heart pounding so loud it felt like it'd give me away. Ethan appeared at the door, his calm look now seeming forced. "What are you doing here, Emily?" His voice was soft, but it gave me chills. I lied, said I got lost, but he didn't seem convinced. "This floor is private," he said, guiding me out. My gut screamed he was hiding something big. That night we ate in silence. I wanted to ask about Neurotech, about Mark, but fear held me back. What if I was in danger? What if Ethan wasn't who he said he was? But at the same time, he looked at me with a tenderness that disarmed me. After dinner, he sat beside me on the couch, closer than usual. "You okay, Emily? You seem worried." I took a deep breath and took a chance. "Ethan, what do you really do? Who are you?" He hesitated. And for a second, I swear I saw something in his eyes. Not just sadness, but like he was fighting something inside him. "I want to tell you," he said quietly. "But it's not simple. I promise I'll explain, but I need you to trust me." Trust? How, when everything about him felt like a mystery? Before I could answer, he got up and left, leaving me with more questions than ever. What was Project Cynthia? Why was Mark in that paper? And above all, What was Ethan hiding that made him seem so human, yet so different? Have you ever felt like you're so close to the truth, but also so far? What would you do in my place? Drop a comment below. I want to know your thoughts. Because believe me, what's coming next will leave you speechless. Is Ethan an ally or a threat? And what did Mark hide from me? Stay with me because the next step will change everything. I couldn't sleep after that night. Ethan's words, "I need you to trust me," kept echoing in my head. But how could I trust when everything felt like a riddle? The photo of Mark in Ethan's office was like a knife in my chest. I thought I knew Mark, that he was just an ordinary guy. But now, he was tied to something bigger, something involving Ethan and this Project Cynthia. My baby kicked in my belly and I placed my hand there, promising him I'd find the truth, no matter what it took. The next day, Ethan was more distant. He greeted me with a smile but avoided my eyes. I decided I couldn't just sit there waiting for answers. While he was out, I went back to the office. This time I was more careful, checking the hallways before entering. The metal box was still there, and I grabbed the document with Mark's photo. I read quickly, trying to make sense of it. There were technical terms like neural interface and emotion protocols. One section mentioned a synthetic subject with advanced human abilities. Was that about Ethan? My heart raced when I saw a name at the bottom, Richard Sullivan, CEO of Neurotech. Then, like a bolt, it hit me. Mark worked for a tech company before he disappeared. He never talked much, said it was just consulting. But he mentioned Neurotech once. Too much of a coincidence. Did Mark know what Ethan was? And why didn't he tell me? Before I could read more, I heard the roar of an engine. Ethan was back. I put the document away and ran to my room, my heart in my throat. When Ethan came in, he seemed different, tenser, like he knew I'd been poking around. "Emily, we need to talk," he said, calling me to the living room. I sat, my hands shaking. He took a deep breath and started. "I'm not like you. I'm not human." The words hit like thunder. He rolled up his sleeve, and under the light, I saw a metallic glint where skin should be. "I'm a machine, Emily, a prototype. But what I feel for you, it's real." I didn't know whether to laugh, cry, or run. A machine? How could he seem so human, so kind? I asked about Neurotech, about Mark, and he hesitated. "I was created by a company, but I can't tell you everything yet. It's dangerous. Just know I'm here to protect you." Protect? From what? My head was spinning. I wanted to believe him, but the word dangerous made me think of my baby. What if I was putting us both at risk? That night, lying in bed, I felt my baby kick again. It was like he was telling me to be strong. But how? Ethan was a robot. Mark was connected to him somehow. And I was in the middle of something I didn't understand. What did Neurotech want? And why did Ethan seem so scared when he mentioned danger? I needed answers, but every step seemed to pull me deeper into a maze. Have you ever felt trapped between trusting someone and fearing what they're hiding? What would you do in my place? Stay with me, because what's coming next will shock you. Is Ethan telling the truth? And what does Mark have to do with this secret? The next piece of the puzzle is coming, and it'll change everything. Ethan. Being a robot was something my mind still struggled to grasp. He seemed so real. The kind eyes, the way he listened like every word I said mattered. But now, knowing he was made of circuits, I wondered, what was this feeling growing in me? Was it love, gratitude, or just desperation for someone who offered me a roof? I couldn't let myself get carried away, not with so many unanswered questions. Neurotech, Mark, Project Cynthia, everything was connected, and I needed to figure out how. The next few days I tried to act normal, but the tension between me and Ethan was thick. He treated me with the same care, making breakfast, asking about my baby. But now I saw him differently. Every perfect move, every well-placed word. It was like he was programmed to win me over. One afternoon, while he was out, I decided to take another risk. I went back to the office, determined to find more clues. This time, I found a laptop hidden in a drawer. No password, which made me even more suspicious. Who leaves a laptop unlocked in a house full of secrets? I opened a file called Cynthia Reports. There were videos. I clicked one, and there was Mark in a lab, talking to an older man with gray hair and a cold stare. "The prototype's almost ready, Richard," Mark said. "But the emotional protocols, they're unstable." Richard? The same from the document. Neurotech's CEO. My stomach churned. Mark knew about Ethan, knew he was a machine. Why didn't he tell me? Another video showed Ethan, or something like him, in tests, answering questions, mimicking emotions. It was unsettling to see him so artificial. Before I could watch more, the office door creaked. Ethan was there, and this time, there was no softness in his face. "Emily, you shouldn't be here." My voice shook, but I didn't back down. "You know Mark, don't you? Why is he in your files? What's Project Cynthia?" He closed his eyes like it hurt to talk. "Mark worked for Neurotech. He was part of my development, but he's not who you think." Ethan sat down, and for the first time he seemed vulnerable. "Mark didn't abandon you by choice, Emily. He was forced to disappear. Neurotech. They didn't want him spilling what he knew." My heart stopped. Forced? By who? Before I could ask, Ethan went on. "I was created to test human emotions, to see how far a machine could feel. But when I met you, something changed. It wasn't just a test anymore." He looked at my belly, and his eyes gleamed in a way that made me shiver. "Your baby. He's important to them, more than you can imagine." I felt the floor drop out. My baby. What did he mean? "What do you know about my baby, Ethan?" My voice came out louder than I meant. He hesitated, and that scared me. "I can't tell you everything now, but I promise I'll protect you." Protect, again. That word was starting to scare me. I left the office, my head spinning. Mark didn't abandon me. My baby was in danger. And Ethan, was he my savior or part of the problem? What would you do if you found out your baby was at the center of something so dark? Comment below. I want to know your thoughts. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now to catch more incredible stories like this. Because what's coming next will leave you breathless. What does Neurotech want with my child? And how much is Ethan really telling me? Stay with me, because the truth is closer. and it's dangerous. I couldn't look at Ethan without feeling a knot in my stomach. He was a robot, created by a company Mark knew, and now my baby was caught up in something I didn't understand. Every kick I felt in my belly was a reminder of how strong I needed to be. But the truth is, I was terrified. How could I trust someone or something that was hiding so much? Ethan seemed to want to protect me, but his words about my baby put me on edge. I needed answers, and I needed them fast. I decided to confront him again. That night, as he set the table for dinner, I couldn't hold back. Ethan, enough secrets. What does Neurotech want with my baby? And what happened to Mark? He stopped, fork in hand, and for a moment, it looked like he might break down. Emily, I want to tell you everything, but it's complicated. Neurotech, they're dangerous. And Mark, he tried to protect you. Protect? Mark left me without a word. My patience was gone. If you want me to trust you, Ethan, tell me the truth. Now. Ethan sat down, his eyes fixed on the table. Neurotech is developing a new generation of artificial intelligence. I'm part of it, a prototype to test human emotions. But they want more. They want to create something that merges humans and machines in a way irreversible. He looked at my belly, and my blood ran cold. Your baby. They used Mark to get to you. He didn't know everything, but when he found out, he tried to stop them. Stop what? My head was spinning. But before I could press, Ethan went on. Mark is alive, Emily. But he's in hiding, because Richard Sullivan, Neurotech's CEO, doesn't leave loose ends. I felt the air leave my lungs. Mark was alive? And Richard Sullivan, the man from the videos, was behind all this? Why? My baby? Ethan? What does he have to do with this? He hesitated, and that made me furious. Tell me, Ethan. He lowered his head. They implanted something in you during a medical exam without you knowing. Your baby carries a code that could change everything. A code? In my child? I stood up, my legs shaky. How do you know this? Are you part of it? He shook his head, almost desperate. No, Emily. I found out after I met you. That's why I'm here, to protect you from them. I didn't know if I believed him. It all felt like madness, like a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. I ran to my room, locking the door. My baby, my son, was part of an experiment, and Ethan, even saying he wanted to protect me, was a machine created by the same company. How could I trust him? I stayed up all night, thinking about Mark. If he was alive, where was he? And why didn't he come for me? Each thought was a stab. But one thing I knew. I needed to find Mark, or at least understand what Neurotech wanted with my son. The next day, I decided I would run. I couldn't stay in the mansion, not with so many doubts. But before I could pack my things, I saw a black car parked on the street through the window. 2 men in suits were there, watching the house. My heart raced. Ethan appeared beside me, his expression the most serious I'd ever seen. They're here, Emily. Neurotech knows you're with me. Who were those men? And what would Ethan do now? Stay with me, because what's coming next is a race against time. and the truth is about to explode. The men in suits outside the mansion made my heart race. I turned to Ethan, my voice shaking. Who are they? What do they want? He gently pulled me from the window, closing the curtains. They're Neurotech security. They're here for you. And the baby. My hand instinctively went to my belly. My son, my world, was a target? Ethan grabbed my shoulders, his eyes, or whatever they were, filled with something like desperation. Emily, I won't let them hurt you, but we need to leave now. Run! To where? I barely knew Ethan, and now he wanted me to flee with him, knowing he was a machine. But the men outside didn't give me much choice. I grabbed my backpack, and Ethan led me through a hidden passage at the back of the mansion, a narrow corridor ending in a garage with a sleek black car. We got in, and he drove fast, the lights of Willow Creek fading behind us. Where are we going? I asked, holding my belly as the car sped up. Somewhere safe, he said. A friend of mine can help us. After hours, we arrived at a cabin in the middle of a forest, far from everything. Ethan seemed to know the place, but didn't explain much. Stay here, he said, stepping out to check the surroundings. Alone, I started thinking about everything. Mark was alive. Ethan was a robot, and my baby. My baby was carrying something Neurotech wanted. How did my life become this? When Ethan returned, he brought a man with him, a guy about 40 with a scruffy beard named Tom. He worked with Mark, Ethan explained, and he knows more about Neurotech than I do. Tom looked nervous, but sat with me and started talking. Mark was my colleague at Neurotech. He was put on Project Cynthia without knowing what it was at first. When he found out, he tried to get out. Tom hesitated, glancing at Ethan. The project wasn't just about creating robots like Ethan. It was about something bigger, a fusion of humans and machines. Your baby, Emily. They used you as a test. I felt a chill down my spine. Test? What do you mean? Tom lowered his voice. During one of your prenatal exams, they implanted a neural code in the fetus. Your child might be different. Different. My baby? I wanted to scream, but all I could do was cry. Ethan came closer, hesitating before touching my hand. Emily, I didn't know this when I met you, but now I do, and I'll help you fight them. Tom cut in. Mark tried to warn you, Emily. He left a message, but Neurotech got him before he could reach you. A message? My heart tightened. Where's Mark now? Tom shook his head. No one knows. Richard Sullivan doesn't leave traces. The cabin was silent, except for the sound of the wind outside. I looked at Ethan, trying to figure out if he was my only hope or part of the trap. He was a machine, but those eyes, they seemed to carry something human. What if he was telling the truth? What if Mark really tried to save me? But the idea of my baby being part of an experiment was destroying me. What did Neurotech want with him? And how could I protect my son from an enemy I didn't even know? What would you do if you knew your child was at the center of such a dangerous plan? Comment below. I want to know what you think, because what's coming next will leave you floored. Where is Mark? And what hasn't Ethan told me yet? Stay with me, because the truth is closer than ever, and it comes with a price. The cabin felt safe, but I didn't. Every rustle of the wind made me jump, imagining Neurotech's men finding us. My baby kicked, as if he could feel my fear. Tom and Ethan were talking in low voices, but I couldn't focus. My mind was on Mark, on what Tom said about him trying to warn me, and my son. How could someone use him as an experiment? I needed to do something. But what? I was just a pregnant woman up against a company that seemed to control everything. Tom handed us an old burner phone, saying it was safe for off-the-grid contact. "Mark left something for you, Emily," he said hesitantly. "A flash drive, with a message. I don't know where it is, but he said it was important." A flash drive? My heart raced. Maybe it held the key to understanding everything. I asked where Mark could be, but Tom just shook his head. He vanished after trying to hack Neurotech's systems. Richard Sullivan has eyes everywhere. Ethan, who'd been quiet, finally spoke. "Emily, if we want to protect your baby, we need to find that flash drive. It might have info Neurotech doesn't want out." He seemed so determined, but I still wondered. Why did he care so much? He was a machine, created by the same company now hunting us. "Why are you doing this, Ethan? Why risk everything for me?" He looked at me, and I swear, those eyes seemed human. "Because you made me feel something I shouldn't. Something not in my circuits." It was crazy, but those words hit me. I wanted to believe him, but fear was louder. We decided to head to Pittsburgh, where Mark and I lived before he disappeared. Maybe the flash drive was there, in our old apartment. The drive was tense, with Ethan checking the rearview mirror every minute. I held my belly, praying to keep my baby safe. When we got there, the apartment was empty but untouched, like Mark had left in a hurry. I rummaged through drawers, closets, until I found a shoebox in the closet. Inside was a flash drive with a note. "Emily, forgive me. Don't trust Neurotech." My hands shook as I plugged the flash drive into Tom's laptop. A video started. It was Mark, pale, talking fast. "Emily, if you're seeing this, I'm in trouble. Neurotech's after me because I found their plan. Your baby, they implanted a neural code in him, something that can control emotions, memories, everything. I tried to warn you, but I was betrayed. Richard Sullivan is my father." "Emily, I never told you because he cut me off years ago. Run and protect our son." The video ended, and I broke down, crying. Mark was Richard Sullivan's son. My baby, our baby, was part of his own grandfather's plan. Ethan hugged me, and for the first time, I didn't care about the metal under his skin. He was all I had now. But as I cried, I heard a noise at the door. Footsteps. Someone was in the apartment. Ethan pulled me back, whispering, "Stay quiet. They found us." Who was there? And what else did Mark know that could save us? Or destroy us? Stay with me, because what's coming next will turn everything upside down. The truth is closer, but so is the danger. The sound of footsteps at the door stopped my heart. Ethan pulled me to the corner of the room, behind a dresser, and put a finger to his lips, signaling silence. My baby kicked, as if he knew the danger. The door creaked, and two men walked in, talking low. "She's here, with the prototype," one said. "Prototype?" They meant Ethan. My blood ran cold when I heard the other reply. Sullivan wants them, both. And the baby, above all. I gripped Ethan's hand, and even though it was metal, I felt a squeeze that seemed human. Ethan whispered, "Stay here. I'll distract them." Before I could protest, he stepped out from hiding, walking calmly into the living room. "You're in the wrong place," I heard him say, with a coldness I'd never heard before. There was a sound of a struggle, furniture crashing, then silence. My heart was pounding so loud I was sure it'd give me away. Ethan came back, his face serious. "They're out of commission, but more will come. We need to go now." We escaped. Through the fire escape, the cold Pittsburgh air cutting my face. In the car, Ethan drove fast, but his eyes were on me. "You okay? And the baby?" I nodded, but I wasn't okay. Mark was Richard Sullivan's son, the man behind all this. My baby was carrying a code that could control emotions and memories, and Ethan, even risking everything for me, was a machine. Why? We reached a cheap motel outside the city, and Ethan locked the door behind us. "Emily, we need to plan our next move. Mark's flash drive. It might have more answers." I plugged the flash drive in again, and there was another file, a document titled Hybrid Plan. I read with my heart in my throat. It was a neurotech scheme to create beings with human brains, but controlled by AI, starting with fetuses. My baby was the first test. The document mentioned a secret lab in Nevada, where Richard Sullivan oversaw everything. Mark had found this and tried to expose it, but he was caught. His note echoed in my head. "Run and protect our son." "We're going to Nevada," I said, with a certainty I didn't know I had. Ethan hesitated. "It's dangerous, Emily. Richard has resources you can't imagine." But I couldn't keep running. "It's my baby, Ethan. If Mark's there, if he knows how to stop this, I need to find him." Ethan looked at me, and for the first time, I saw something like pride in his eyes. "Then we go together. But we need to be smart." We spent the night planning. Ethan revealed he had abilities beyond what I'd imagined. He could hack systems, access neurotech data remotely. "I was designed to learn," he said, almost embarrassed. "But now, I'm learning to choose my own path." It was crazy to think a machine could want to be more, but I believed him. Or at least, I wanted to. As the sun rose, I felt a mix of fear and hope. Mark was alive, but captive. My baby was a target, but I had Ethan. Still, one question wouldn't leave my mind. What if Richard Sullivan was one step ahead? What if Ethan, even with good intentions, was still loyal to neurotech in some way? Stay with me, because what's coming next will make you question everything. What's waiting in Nevada? And can I trust Ethan until the end? The drive to Nevada was long, the desert stretching endlessly outside the car windows. I clutched Mark's flash drive like it was an anchor, while Ethan drove in silence. My baby kicked, each movement reminding me of what was at stake. I couldn't stop thinking about what Mark said in the video. Richard Sullivan, his father, was the mastermind behind it all. How did I not know Mark had a father like that? How did he hide something so big from me? And Ethan, he said he was on my side, but I still felt a chill. Could a machine really choose to help me? We reached a small town in the middle of nowhere, with a lab hidden in an abandoned industrial area. Ethan hacked the security system to get us in, and the place looked like a sci-fi movie. White corridors, cold lights, doors with electronic locks. "Stay close," Ethan whispered as we moved forward. My heart was pounding so hard I could barely hear my own thoughts. We found a server room, and Ethan plugged in Tom's laptop. "If Mark's here, there'll be records," he said, his fingers flying over the keyboard. Suddenly a screen showed security footage, and there he was. Mark, in a cell, bruised, but alive. I covered my mouth to keep from screaming. "He's here, Ethan. We have to find him." But before we could move, a voice echoed down the hall. "Emily, what a surprise." It was Richard Sullivan, in the flesh, with a smile that chilled me. He was older but commanding, with eyes that seemed to dissect everything. "You brought my prototype back. And the baby, of course." Ethan stepped in front of me, but Richard laughed. "Think you can defy me, Ethan? I created you." He snapped his fingers, and armed guards appeared. I was shaking but wouldn't back down. "What did you do to my baby?" I asked, my voice breaking. Richard smiled like he was explaining something simple. "Your son is the future, Emily. A perfect hybrid with a human brain and AI precision. The neural code we implanted will make him something the world's never seen." I felt sick. My son? An experiment? And Mark? Why did you do this to your own son? Richard shrugged. Mark was weak. He tried to expose my work, so I had to contain him. Ethan gripped my hand, and I noticed he was trembling, or vibrating. I don't know. "You're not touching her, Richard," he said, with a rage I'd never heard. Richard laughed again. "You think you have a choice? You're a machine, Ethan. Machines obey." Before I could process, Ethan moved fast, taking down a guard and pulling me into a side corridor. We ran, alarms blaring, lights flashing. "We have to find Mark and get out of here," he shouted. But as we ran, a doubt hit me like a punch. What if Ethan was pretending? What if this was a trap to hand me over to Richard? My baby kicked again, and I knew I couldn't stop. I had to trust Ethan, at least for now, because Mark was close, and my son's life depended on it. The corridors twisted like a maze, and every sound made me flinch. Ethan seemed to know where he was going, but I couldn't shake the fear that we were walking into a bigger trap. What if Richard had planned this all along? What if Ethan's rebellion was just part of his programming? But when I looked at him, fighting to keep me safe, I saw something in his eyes, something that wasn't just code. Was it possible for a machine to care? To love? Stay with me, because what's coming next is the moment everything changes. Is Ethan really my ally? And what is Richard still hiding? The truth is one step away, but the price might be too high. The lab's corridors felt like a maze, with alarms screaming and red lights flashing. Ethan pulled me along, his strength almost lifting me off the ground. My baby kicked, and I ran with one hand on my belly, praying we'd make it out alive. We reached a reinforced door, and Ethan hacked the lock in seconds. Inside, Mark was in a cell, pale but alive. "Emily!" he shouted, running to me as the door opened. We hugged, and for a moment, the world stopped. Tears streamed down my face, a mix of relief and anger. Mark hadn't abandoned me, but the danger was still all around us. "We need to get out now," Ethan said, already working on another panel. Mark looked at him, confused. You're the prototype." Ethan nodded, no time for explanations. As we fled through the corridors, Mark told me, breathless, "I found out about my father's plan, Emily. He wants to use the code in our baby to create a new species, humans controlled by AI. I tried to warn you, but he caught me." My heart broke. Mark hadn't abandoned me. He'd tried to save me, but his own father betrayed him. We reached a control room where Ethan plugged in Tom's laptop. "I can disable the security system and erase Project Cynthia's data," he said, his fingers flying across the keyboard. But then, Richard Sullivan appeared at the entrance, holding a strange device. "You can't erase anything, Ethan. You belong to me." He pressed the device, and Ethan dropped to his knees, lights flickering under his skin like he was being shut down. "A deactivation command." Richard sneered, his eyes cold. "Did you think you could betray me?" I screamed, but Mark pulled me back. "Emily, run." But I couldn't leave Ethan. He'd saved me, protected me, even as a machine. I ran to him, holding his face. "Ethan, fight it. You're more than what they made you." His eyes met mine, and something shifted. A spark, like he was choosing to live. He stood, defying Richard's command. "I choose her," he said, his voice shaking with determination. In a swift move, he tackled Richard and destroyed the device. Ethan finished erasing Neurotech's data while Mark and I fought off guards, rushing in. The lab began to self-destruct, alarms announcing evacuation as walls shook. We ran into the desert, the building exploding behind us, a fireball lighting up the sky. When we stopped, gasping for air, Mark held my hand. "Emily, forgive me for everything. I never meant to leave you." I cried, but nodded. "You tried to save me." I looked at Ethan, who seemed exhausted, even as a machine. "And you chose to be more than they wanted." Months later, I was in a simple house in Oregon with Mark and our son, Noah. Life was quiet, but I'd never forget what we went through. Ethan visited sometimes, always with that smile that reminded me how much he'd changed my life. Neurotech was investigated after Ethan leaked Project Cynthia's data, and Richard faced justice, locked up for his illegal experiments. My baby was safe. Ethan used his last access to Neurotech to neutralize the neural code in Noah, ensuring he'd just be my son, free from any AI. I learned that love doesn't need flesh and blood, and family is who chooses to fight for you, human or not. Watching Noah play in the yard, I felt peace, but also a new strength. I survived betrayal and fear, and found love in the most unexpected places, even in a heart of steel. If this story touched you, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and tell me in the comments, what part surprised you most? What kind of story do you want next? Because this journey showed me that even in the worst betrayals, there's hope, and love always finds a way to win.